And welcome back to this week's Vegas Realty Check. Our host, Miss Trish Williams, is gone on vacation, enjoying her amazing life. But this week, we are here. We're going to talk about some loans, some amazing real estate stuff, and go through some great listener questions and give you all the amazing updates. We have our returning guest, Miss Leah Silva with Keller Williams. She's going to be here to give some of her expertise as well. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Vegas Realty Check. This is Miss Leah Silva from Keller Williams Marketplace, and we're going to get into some exciting real estate news, things that are going on in the market. So, any type of updates you have that you want to kind of talk about, or things you've heard in the news lately?
Well, I'm excited to be back. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for coming back and visiting.
I know I joined Trish, I want to say last month while you were out, and then now with Trish being gone, I'm here filling a spot, so I appreciate being the substitute.
So I'm like a co-host, and she's like a co-host now, and we're very happy to have you back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much going on in Vegas right now. I mean, as a Vegas local of 30 plus years, I can tell you one of the most excited things I am. One of the things I'm most excited for right now, and you may or may not notice, you may have been watching, but did you know there's a new Whole Foods coming to Summerlin?
I did actually see that, which might not be sound that incredible, but it's actually amazing, and it's in the perfect location. It's right in downtown Summerlin, right?
It is, and they set an opening date, May 15th. So I will be one of those obnoxious Summerlin people begging down the door.
I love it.
And it's great because I know the other Whole Foods actually technically wasn't in Summerlin. A lot of people may have not realized that.
So I don't live in Summerlin. Where is the other one?
It's off of Charleston and Rampart. And so a lot of people may not realize that the way you know where Summerlin is by the streetlights.
Oh.
I don't know if have you noticed
No.
that?
What do you mean?
Summerlin has signature streetlights. That's when you actually know you're technically within the master plan of Summerlin.
Are they like special streetlights?
They're special streetlights.
Okay. So now I'm going to keep an eye. What's so different about them? I didn't know that.
They're pretty. I don't
They're
know.
like high-end. They're
square.
high-end streetlights.
I mean, your HOA's got to pay for something,
right?
Okay?
That's true. Or at least you hope so if you have an HOA, which most of the places here do.
Yeah. And outside of that, I mean, around the bend in the Southwest, you may have noticed that there's been a spot reserved for a high-end health club, the Lifetime memberships. So there's two Lifetimes in town right now. There's one in the Green Valley, Henderson area, and one in Summerlin. Well, they're opening one in Southwest. They've had the lot for quite some time. They just announced recently that within the next 2 months, they will be starting to build on it.
I feel like the areas now that are really growing and blossoming for sure in Vegas are going to be Southwest, which has been happening the last 2-3 years with Durango and all the outdoor malls over there, and then the growth over there, and Inspirada's next. Mm-hmm. They're opening a station casino. They've started opening a ton of restaurants. So those are definitely, as Vegas locals, places to watch out for. The real estate is going crazy in those areas, and you're really seeing a lot of growth.
Yeah. The Southwest is booming. So my husband bought our home in the Southwest 20 years ago this year.
Wow.
And so we were one of the first people in our community.
What's your major cross streets?
We're off of Blue Diamond and Fort Apache area. And we've only seen it get busier and busier. When my husband bought, you couldn't even take Fort Apache all the way down. You had to go Rainbow. I wasn't old enough to own a home at the time, but it's just been amazing to see what the developments have done and how everything has grown in the Southwest, and it's definitely one of the hot spots in my opinion right now.
I love it. I love it. So speaking of growth, let's get into some market numbers and kind of talk about that. And obviously you're on the real estate side, but this week we're at 5,720 single family homes, which is up 219. How are you seeing a little bit of an uptick as far as getting busier, or what's your...
So we're in our spring market right now, right? You know, the 20, 21, 22 crazy banana pants market we were in, I felt like real estate never stopped during that time, right? But typically we have pretty consistent trends when it comes to our peak, quote unquote, busy times, right?
Yeah.
And usually it's mid-February to 4th of July. And then after 4th of July, we tend to get a little bit of a quiet down as people start prepping. Maybe families are going, families that have kids going back to school. They've been traveling, whatever that looks like, and we see a little bit of a slowdown until September. But right now, I believe we're in our peak market, and so that's why we're going to see more homes coming on market, which is great for our buyers. There are more options available for them, and then also you have you're going to see some more inventory coming on and more buyers that are interested in making a move.
Absolutely. And we are also up 43 from last week as far as condos and townhomes at 2,240, which again goes to that spring trend where we are starting to see an uptick. New listings up 43 from last week. So that is typically the spring trend at 1,266. And people are doing a little bit of a price decrease, 933 right now, which is 122 more from last week. So you definitely are seeing people being a little bit more realistic. They're wanting to get their home sold and move.
Yeah. And it's all about every individual seller's goals, and that's why you have those price adjustments potentially. You know, we're seeing more motivation in the market, and I think we're seeing that balance come back where previously, a lot of our sellers' expectations were up here and our buyers' expectations up here, and no one can see.
So someone's got to give somewhere, right?
Yeah, so exactly. So now we're seeing sellers being a little bit more realistic, and I believe our buyers are as well.
I love that. I love that. And as far as mortgage rates, obviously I'm on the lending side. You know, we already knew based on the tariffs and everything going on that there was going to be some ups, some downs, and who knows. So we were kind of bracing ourselves. Right now, we were looking at, we were at 7% last week. So we knew with the volatility, things were going to happen. Now I think everyone's like, okay, what's going on? Everything's kind of starting to stabilize again. So we're sitting right at about a 6.8. It did come down a tad bit from last week, which is good. We're sitting right at a 6.8 on a national average for a 30-year. And we're still in the low. We were in the high fives, you know, about 2 weeks ago. Right now for an FHA VA national average, we're sitting right at about a 6.2. So things definitely trended up a little bit, but they're starting to stabilize. So that's really, really good news. Last week we were talking about, and I know you weren't here, but we were covering this 10 steps of the process of getting into a home. So I already covered the first 5. The 6th one, which is the most exciting, is make an offer.
That's like one of my favorite parts, actually,
right?
Because that's the first step to helping you actually secure the home you've fallen in love with during your showing.
You're like, we finally found you a house. What's your average amount of houses you typically show someone before they find? Is it just a whole array of different amounts?
So I'm all about setting expectations up front. I think that's super important when you're meeting with your buyer clients. And I have a great track record. On average, 6 homes is the amount of homes I have to show before writing our first offer.
So even more exciting, if the first home they show, you put in an offer and the offer is accepted. Step 7, get an inspection. I know some people have not in the past, but I assume that most of your buyers want to do an inspection.
Once we have a fully executed agreement, earnest money has been submitted to the title company. We usually have a due diligence period. And within that due diligence period, on average, I write my contracts for about a 10-day due diligence to be competitive. And during that time, it is super important to have an inspection. During our crazy busy time, I know a lot of people were quote unquote waiving inspections. That's not something I would ever recommend to a client. You need a snapshot of the condition of the home you are currently purchasing.
So important.
So you know if there's any red flags that need to be addressed.
Yep, absolutely. And step 8, after the inspection, we order an appraisal to make sure the home is kind of where it is as far as the value, which, you know, I think right now the market is pretty stabilized. During COVID, the values were all over the place. And appraisal is super important. 9, best part, me and you head to the closing table.
Yes. So there's definitely some things that come into place at that time. We're going to meet you at the closing table. There's going to be a lot that goes on in the background at that time.
Every time.
But that is a super exciting part of this. Once we are at the closing table, you'll sign your life away.
Yes.
Expect about 45 minutes and some hand cramps. But when you're done with that, surprisingly or not, here in Vegas, you're not going to be receiving your keys right away. We are at the mercy of the Clark County Recorder's Office.
Fun stuff.
What has to happen before a buyer can receive their keys?
So it has to be recorded with the county, the deed, everything has to be good, title has to be passed, all the good stuff. We check and make sure nothing changed last minute. But once it's recorded with the county, we get the okay. And the best part is you get your keys.
That is the best part in my opinion as well.
Absolutely. So those are the 10 steps of buying a home. Stay tuned. We're going to have some great listener questions up next and just a little bit more into me and Leah's background. See you in a minute.
Hey Vegas! Celebrate every day in style at the Composer's Room. From live music to comedy shows, we've got entertainment that'll give you that Las Vegas vibe. Our tavern serves the best drinks in Vegas. Whether you're a cocktail connoisseur or a beer buff, our bartenders got you covered. And let's not forget about the food. Our culinary delights are sure to tantalize your taste buds. Come for the entertainment and stay for the food. Reserve your visit to the Composer's Room today and start celebrating Las Vegas our way.
Welcome back to Vegas Realty Check. So this week we're going over a couple questions and we're going to talk a little bit about our hospitality and background and how that's kind of shaped us as to what we do for a living. But the first question was, I'm buying a home and my parents are going to co-sign for me to help get approved for a higher amount. Am I still able to do an FHA loan? So as a lender, the answer is always yes. We will always find a way to make it work. But on an FHA loan, typically that's going to be, and I'm sure you've done many FHA loans with buyers, that's typically going to be not always a first-time home buyer, but someone who maybe his credit isn't as favorable or their debt-to-income ratios are a little bit higher. A lot of times too, based on the market, sometimes an FHA loan, the rates are just way lower. So sometimes we'll compare to see what's going to be best as far as a mortgage payment. But on an FHA loan, we can always have a cosigner. Typically on an FHA, it's usually going to be siblings, parents, someone that's like a relative or a very close friend.
Yeah.
And so on those, we do still do everything the same. They're going to be cosigners. We're going to pull credits. We're going to get all their income documents and make sure that they qualify. Because at the end of the day, even if it's your parent, if you don't pay, your parents are responsible.
And Courtney, can we just, so people know when they are co-signing for them, does their co-signer have to occupy the home as well?
Nope, great question. So on an FHA loan, they do not have to be in the home or reside in the home. There are little stipulations though. If they're not a US citizen, they have to be a permanent resident, or the main borrower definitely does have to be a US citizen. So there's some stipulations. But the great news is you can get a cosigner, and we see that a lot now just because houses, the average price point the last I checked was $489. Yeah. So sometimes we do need that, and it does help. And if you have a parent who's willing to, I don't know if mine would have been back in the day when I was in my early 20s, but if you have a parent who's willing to, it really, really helps, and it moves the needle along to get the loan approved, and you get your dream house.
Yeah, and it gives you more potential buying power in our current market where you may be at a price point that you don't feel as comfortable in and you want a little more wiggle room.
Absolutely. Especially too because rent is so high now that if you can get into a house and you have someone that'll help you get approved and they know you're good for paying your bills, it's always really worth it because the values are skyrocketing here.
Yeah.
I mean, you've lived here long enough. You see it all the time.
Yeah, 30 plus years here in Vegas. I have many friends and clients who've rented their entire lives, right? And then they finally come to us and they feel like they're ready to move forward with the purchase. And then they get wet feet because they're like, oh my God, I have to commit to something.
Yeah.
And that commitment is hard for a lot of people. And they're like, I'm just going to continue renting. But ultimately, what happens when you continue renting year over year? What are you doing?
You're essentially throwing your money away, but also as a renter, you have no predictability on where your payment's gonna be. One year it's $2,000 and the next year it could be $2,300, $2,400.
Yeah.
So at least when you own a home, if you're comfortable with the initial payment, you know what your payment's gonna be.
Yeah. And the reality is right now, the most important things about home ownership are you have to figure out what you can afford. You find a home you love and make sure it's in that price bracket that you can afford, and probably plan to be there at least 5 years and move forward with that home, because there's so many opportunities out there you're going to miss if you don't put your toes in to home ownership, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I agree. And this episode, we kind of wanted to trace back to like me and Leah's roots. So we both, especially in Vegas, I think it's more common here in this town, but we both come from a hospitality background. I've worked at the Bellagio as a therapist for years. This was when I was younger. And then I was a server, and I also worked at Hilton. We helped booked clients like high-end travel packages. So I've been in the hospitality industry virtually forever, and I still am, just in a different way. And I know you came from the same background as well.
Yeah, so I came from food and beverage, like so many people in Las Vegas, like so many realtors. You may have seen the memes, they're hilarious.
I know.
I think the running joke is you go from cocktail waitress to realtor between 26 and 29. I waited till I was 29, okay? But I mean, it gives you so much experience, because when you're in the hospitality space, you're first of all accustomed to talking to anyone who shows up in front of you, right? And I can talk to anyone about anything for a good 15 minutes at least, usually, right? Wait, how long is this thing? Just kidding. But that's the thing. So you're already trained to deal with that. You're trained to put yourself out there as what this job requires.
I think it really shapes, I mean, I think it really teaches you, being from a hospitality background, just how to read people and give them kind of what they need and what they're expecting. And I think being in hospitality so long, you're taught to really like hold people's hand and take care of them. And I think it's just a different level of service. I mean, I feel like my customers or my clients always say like, you're so amazing. You made sure you communicated all the way through. And I think that being in the hospitality industry, you have to take care of everyone. It's just, it makes sure they're good, they're happy, and communicate. So I think it's really taught me how to give each individual exactly what they need and make them feel very comfortable.
I agree. You're taught in the restaurant industry, at least, steps of service, right?
Yep.
There's expectations as you go through your courses, and that has translated into my real estate business, right? I have my steps of service, and I know exactly what I'm hitting when I'm hitting it. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts, and we're not the only ones involved in the transactions. You as a lender, myself as a realtor, we are the upfront go-to for our client communication, but there's a ton going on in the background, just like in a restaurant and hospitality industry.
And I think really having those high expectations and wanting to give those types of levels of service really make a huge difference. Even to work at Bellagio, and this was, you know, like 20 years ago, we had to be Forbes trained to even work there. Our level of speaking and how they wanted us to treat every client that walked in the door was just like par none. Like, it was just, the bar was raised so high. And I think it taught me to always make sure that I answer my phone, or even if I can't answer, I'll text you right away and say, I'll call you back. So it just like baffles me at when I've done, you know, loan transaction, I'm trying to get a hold of an agent and no one calls me. It's crazy. It's like, are we working together here? Like, can you please call me back? Because I'm sure there's times where you have a showing and you're like, I can't even get a hold of this person to show their house that they're trying to sell. Oh yeah, it's hilarious. Actually, this happened last week. I have a new client that was referred to me from another agent across the country, and they came to me with a pre-approval letter. And so on the pre-approval letter was the lender's contact information. I sent an email, and I also called, and I left a voicemail. And when the response to the voicemail I got was, "What do you want?" Stop it. From the lender. And I'm like, oh, hi, I'm confirming a pre-approval I received from my client. And then I got the call back, but it's just interesting to see the level of expertise and professionalism that will vary in this industry, definitely. It is so true. And I think when you live in Vegas, you're so used to like amazing customer service that I mean, unless you go to like a huge city like Miami or something that is all tourism, but when I go somewhere else, like you sit anywhere here and you're greeted within like a minute or two. I've gone other places when I go see my family in Michigan where I'm from, I'll sit at a table for like 20 minutes, no one acknowledges you, no one, it's wild. And so I think that you know, growing up here and being here, you're just taught such a different level of customer service that you don't realize how amazing your service is until you try to reach out and you can't get a hold of people. No one answers. They don't call you back. And I think that's how it's really shaped me, is just making sure the communication is, you know, top level, and that everyone knows exactly where you're at, what part of the transaction, because it just makes everything go so much smoother.
100%. It's back to the setting expectations up front and making sure people know what to anticipate next. If the question is, what's happening next? I'm lost. I feel like I'm in the dark. Then you're never going to be in a good place with your clients.
And I think it's just so important. And I think that hospitality really has helped, for sure, me, and just being able to give each client exactly what they need, and not being that person where people are like, oh my gosh, I called that lender, like couldn't get a hold of her. Like, my job is to get a loan closed. Yeah. I'm happy to work with all the agents, introduce myself, which is another weird thing, is a lot of lenders never call the agent or introduce themselves to the other side of the transaction.
No, that's so weird, because you think you'd want to be able to gain more business potentially.
You know,
it's the hustlers in us. I think that's what the service industry helped us provide.
Absolutely.
It taught us the hustle, and now we know exactly what we're hustling for because it's negotiated up front.
Right. And so I think that's such a great thing. And that's, you know, we come from here, and it's just a different level that we try to give each person. And I think it really does help a lot. But stay tuned. We will be right back, and we'll see you shortly.
Hey, Vegas. Are you ready to kickstart 2025 with a bang? The Composer's Room is your go-to destination for Las Vegas entertainment. Every day is a celebration here. From live music to comedy shows to magic acts, the Composer's Room has the entertainment with the Las Vegas vibe. If you are feeling lucky, then try your hand at one of our hot video poker machines. Who knows, you may hit the jackpot. Are you feeling thirsty? Our tavern serves the best drinks in Vegas. Whether you are a cocktail connoisseur or a beer buff, our bartenders got you covered. And let's not forget about the food. Our culinary delights are guaranteed to entertain your taste buds. And what's more, we've been voted best restaurant with live music. Come for the entertainment and stay for the food. Start celebrating 2025 in style at the Composer's Room. Our Vegas, our way.
Welcome back to Vegas Realty Check. Next week, Trish will be back, so we're gonna be covering some different things, and usually I don't know what off-the-wall things we're gonna cover, but you definitely have to stay tuned. I don't know if it's gonna be the penis house on Pecos, but I don't think we're going there next week again. But we're definitely gonna have some really exciting updates, and we're gonna see what happens with the tariffs. You know, it does change a lot of things, the market, the rates. So we're gonna keep an eye on that for you and keep you posted. I know there's been a lot of people kind of a little weary of making moves right now because they're just watching. The stock market obviously is taking a huge change up and down all day long. So we'll keep an eye on that. I don't know if you're seeing a little bit of like stagnant right now.
It's definitely shifting, and we have to keep an eye on things. Everyone, when you're purchasing a home, it's a very emotional process.
Yeah.
So you have to feel ultimately comfortable about the decisions you're making and what you're doing. So
Absolutely.
We're only here to provide you the information, what's currently going on, and how we can support you through the process.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll keep you updated. I'll keep an eye on everything. We'll go over rates next week and see what's going on. I think there's a pause on tariffs right now, so that should be good. Keep an eye on us at Hey Vegas TV, and then also Vegas Realty Check. Follow us, like, subscribe, and where can we find you, Miss Leah?
Yeah, I'm easily accessible. You can reach out to me at my website, Elucient.com. We'll make sure to include that information below. Thank you so much for having me, Courtney.
Yep, and you can find me at 702-416-6918 or JFK Financial. And we are so happy you stayed tuned with us, and we're happy to have you back. And you will see us next week. Trish Williams will be back to run the show, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week.